Hi, I'm really excited for this video, like really excited. But first of all, I have to start with some disclaimers. And number one disclaimer for this video is that I repeat, I am not a professional. Duh. Number two, there are some things in this video that is considered unsafe. I know I may get some judgment, but yeah, there's a lot of things that I'm not particularly proud of, but we did it. It happened, and he's alive. So I mean, I'll just leave it at that. Disclaimer number 3: I don't think that anybody should compare the situation that happened with us to your baby or any other person's baby. Everybody's situation and everybody's baby is unique. Anything that that I tell you in this video, it has nothing to do with your baby or this neighbor's baby or whatever. It's what happened with my baby. So just letting you know, this isn't a general thing. So yeah. So let's begin our journey. How did we go from this?
Okay, we better stop. We better stop.
To this. And this. To this. And also this.
We're having a little quiet time.
To this.
Started to look for some food. On Monday, hold on. Okay, on Monday he ate through one apple. He was still hungry. Oh, hello. Good night. Oh. Hello. Hello there. How are you? I'm not talking. I don't know why you're waving at me.
Hear me when I say it's been one heck of a ride. When Aidan was born, I don't think either Jason or I slept for weeks. And when I say weeks, I mean 30 weeks. Aidan never slept through the night, and he also was always hungry. And on top of that, I had a lot of problems with breastfeeding. So factor that into the mix, it was incredibly tough. Long story short about the breastfeeding, I had a lot of problems with the latch. I had to turn to pumping. What that consists of is the routine of pumping, feeding him, pumping, then feeding him the breast milk that I pumped, and repeating that over and over and over every 1 to 3 hours. And then doing that for 24 hours, 7 days a week for 4 months. So that was really fun. Like, I'm not complaining about it, but it's just what happened for me. And on top of that, Aidan would never sleep in his crib. We had the crib beside our bed for 6 months, for the first 6 months, which was what was recommended. But he never would sleep in there. So I would put him in the crib on his back, and he would stay there laying awake and moving his arms and legs like, ah. And then, like, once he realized he wasn't like being held, he would progress to crying and crying and crying, and he would do that until like I picked him up. And there he is, sleeping right beside me and Jason, or he would sleep on top of my chest, just what the doctor did not order. It's not ideal, and I had no regrets because it worked, and I was able to sleep for at least a few hours every day. Then I learned about sleep training. Wow, it sounded amazing. They tell you your baby will cry it out and then they'll go to sleep for 12 hours straight, and you just have to do this for 3 days, and then they'll never cry again, and they'll be like conditioned to not like cry, and then you're in heaven. Wrong. No, 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 no. That is not what happened for us. So, truth be told, when I was telling Jason about the whole process about sleep training and how I'm talking about the Ferber method. You put the baby on their back and then you let them sleep in a dark room, and all you have to do is wait until they cry. Once they cry, you have to wait 2 minutes to go inside the room, and then you go in there and you say, "Oh, go to sleep, I love you." Walk out, no lingering, and then you wait again for 4 minutes. And if they're still crying, you go back in there, you do the same whole thing again, then you come back out, wait 8 minutes, so on and so forth. I hope you get the whole gist of it. When I was telling Jason this whole thing, my chest felt like it was like crushing me. Like the idea of letting my son cry it out, like he's my first son, my first baby, and then letting him like lay in the dark all alone and feeling abandoned by his mother, who like held him in her belly, or uterus, sorry. That was home, and now like that home is going to be pulled away. Like it made me feel like a crappy mother. But even so, we read more studies, and it just, long story short, just do your own research. But what we had research is that it shouldn't really affect them in their later years. They won't even remember. So we agreed to try it, even just for a few days, to see how it would go for us. We did do it at 5 months, because I saw that there's this lady on YouTube who did it when their baby was 5 months, and it went so well for her. And don't ever listen to anybody on YouTube. Like, be more intuitive with your own child, and remember that your child is different from another person's child. So we tried it at 5 months, and we tried it in our own bedroom. This is our bed, this is the crib. We tried it that way to see how it would go, because we wanted him to sleep in his crib. And so we left him in there with a little nightlight, or did our whole routine, and then said the goodbyes. Closed the door on him, cried for almost an hour. We stopped it like before the 1 hour mark hit, because we did our research, and it says that if the baby ever cries out for more than an hour, there's something definitely wrong. Yeah, he cried, and I felt so crappy, and I cried too. And I cried to Jason, and I said, like, no, like I can't do this anymore. Like I just couldn't put up with the emotional trauma of just like of him crying like that and me hearing him. And then when I saw him just drenched in tears and just helpless, I knew something was wrong, and I just didn't want to do it anymore. So basically all my research has gone down the drain. I took him, I put him back in the bed, and then that was it. We were co-sleeping with him for another 2 months. Then the 7-month mark hit, and Aidan was rolling like this, and he was actually moving himself. He was gaining mobility. And he is starting to be more independent. And on top of that independence is just a lot of danger. So yeah, so he's in our bed and he's rolling like a crazy donut, like he's just rolling. He happens to one day roll right off the bed. His whole body, like little 7-month-old Aidan, falling right on the floor. And our bed is like yay high, and he's this little baby falling right off. He survived. Like, that's one of the darkest moments of my life, when like I saw him fall right off the bed and I wasn't there for him. I don't know how many people can relate to that, but yeah, it made me feel really shitty. But anyway, and that's what made me want to do the sleep training again. Even though like I had to deal with the emotions of the crying and everything, I just knew it was safer for all of us that he would sleep in the crib. And so we set up his own bedroom. We put like all of his favorite things in the bedroom. We put new sheets, got like a change table, everything. We tried it and it worked for 2 weeks. So what happened was, for 3 to 4 days he cried, and we would come in every 2, 4, 8, 12 minutes and whatever. He eventually did go to sleep. There were times in the middle of the night that he would wake up and we would still do the same thing, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 increments until he would fall asleep again on his own. That worked. It was great. For 2 weeks. Wait, didn't they say that you just have to do this for 3 days and then your kid will sleep for 12 hours straight after that? No, it's not true. Not for us. I actually did a little bit more research after this incident happened, and I found out that every time they changed developmentally, they would go through something like growing a new tooth, getting longer, or like they're learning a new word.
Aidan, say dada. Dada.
Good job.
Oh, that was a lot of work.
They're learning how to sit up. They're learning how to stand, they're learning how to crawl, whatever. Every type of developmental milestone. These kids rebel. So there was 2 weeks of no crying. It was great, no crying. Then all of a sudden, he starts crying again. So we had to sleep train him again every 2 to 3 weeks. But the thing about that, it was a lot of emotional trauma for me, because you see them crying. Like, it's tough. It's really tough. And it hit me hard. But I knew I had to do it, because if I didn't do it, it would be harder and harder and harder and harder for us to get him to sleep in his own room. And I don't want to deal with that. I want to get it over with now. Like, that's just what pushed me through it. Like, I just don't want to deal with it later. I just want to fix the problem now. And that's like, my thing is like, I don't want it to be too late. Yeah, so what I'm trying to say is that it's emotionally traumatic for me, especially, to go in there, I comfort him, I can't pick him up, I just have to tell him that I love him and that he has to go to sleep, and then to walk away to him, shut the door, and I can just hear him crying. Like, it's so hard. It's so hard. Yeah, so that's why I think sleep training is not for everyone. I won't ever judge anybody for not doing it. Like, you build like a new layer of skin just from doing it 5 times. Anyway, the 10-month mark hit, and it was such a big time for Aidan, like a huge milestone for Aidan, because he learned how to stand on his own.
Drooling everywhere. Jesus. Hey, good job.
And one of the big things about Like he would fall asleep like this, perched up on the crib, like, but then he would wake up again realizing that he's not comfortable, and he would just cry. I would go in there and I have to help him lay down, but when I tried to do this, he would like cling to me for dear life, like as if like if I let go of him, he's gonna die. The guilt got to me, and I ended up making my first mistake. Maybe it wasn't a mistake, but at the time I thought it was, that like I just took him and I just like had him sleep on me until he completely passed out. Then I would put him in the crib. During the day, we were practicing with him to stand and then learn how to go back to sitting and then to laying, like so that he would know how to do that process. So it took him like a month to do that. During that month, we were babying him basically. He was like a newborn again. What we did was Jason and I would take turns, and we would rock him to sleep. We would get him to sleep on our chest. We would wait until he fell asleep, until he was completely passed out. But we didn't know whether he was passed out or not, so we thought, okay, maybe in an hour he'll be passed out. I try to put him back in the crib. He's awake, and he's trying to cling on for dear life. And then I'm stuck again on the chair, like rocking him to sleep. And we would stay in there for like 3 to 4 hours before he would like completely pass out. But after that, he would sleep in the crib like until morning. But still, like it took a huge toll on me and Jason. I couldn't wait till it wasn't my turn. That's how bad it was. And the reason being was that Aidan was getting big, and he was just getting really heavy. And I was starting to get tendinitis, and it was hard, and it was a very challenging time for us. Once we did this for a month and a half. I don't know why we did it for that long, because he was able to go back down again. But because he was so clingy during that time, I just didn't know when to start again. But it got to the point where we had to do it again because it was just taking a toll on us. So what we did was we sleep trained him again at 11 and a half months, 2 weeks before he turned 1. And surprisingly, it went really well. So what we did was we did the same thing over again. Nothing has changed. For the first day, he only cried for 10 minutes, which was unusual because that was the shortest time of him crying in all of the first attempts that we did with sleep training. Yeah, it was unusual. We were kind of just like, oh, he's asleep. And we were like, okay, cool. Next day, he cried for 5 minutes, and then he fell asleep. And then the day after that, he didn't cry at all. So he only cried 2 nights. It was bizarre. I just think that maybe he was just developmentally ready, like just to sleep on his own. Now that he's 15 months old, he tells me when he wants to take a nap. He tells me when he wants to go to sleep. I'll ask him. I'll say, Aidan, do you want to take a nap? And he'll literally run to the stairs and wait for me to open the gate to go upstairs so he can take his nap. Like, it's such a blessing to be able to have that gift of sleep and giving him that extra bit of independence that he seems to really enjoy. So that's my whole story on sleep training Aidan. It wasn't the step-by-step process of how we sleep trained him. It's basically my journey with sleep training Aidan. And we had a grand old time. Kind of. And I can't wait to do it again. That's not a hint.